Welcome to a new episode of Fan-Made Games, and with Breath of the Wild on the way, I thought what a great time to talk about some more fan-made Zelda games. This week I have a grand total of 6 games to talk about, some good, some bad, but I have to say, all interesting enough to enjoy and learn about. So, to start off, let's check out Zelda Horn of Balance. This game is the one I probably found myself enjoying the least out of the bunch, but still interesting overall. Before talking about the actual game though and my feelings for it, I want to mention something funny that happened to me while playing. So this is the first dungeon, and while exploring I couldn't find a way in, so I went outside and tried to find another way in, which I thought was going to be the portal to the left of the building, but instead I fell into this gray square, which I didn't think was a hole, and well, I ended up in the dungeon anyways. Now, I'm not sure I was supposed to fall in like this for a few reasons. Reason number 1, I think you're supposed to unlock doors before you walk through them. Number 2, I think you're supposed to move statues out of the way before, again, walking through them. And well, number 3, come on, now I know I'm just a ghost. Surprisingly though, through these glitches, I was actually able to find my way into the dungeon the proper way, and actually start playing the game. Truthfully though, this is where my interest started to dwindle. The dungeon layout was really just too complicated to get a hold of for me. I feel like this would be a game for more hardcore Zelda players who can really bash their way through Link to the Past gameplay. Me on the other hand, I'm not huge into Link to the Past. It seems like a really challenging game, and I know that can be for some people, but I'm not really into a super challenging top-down Zelda game. If you want to give me Dark Souls Zelda Edition, go for it, but top-down hardcore isn't for me. But if that's your thing, I would recommend checking out Horn of Balance. Next up, we have Chaos Rising, a Game Boy Color-based Zelda game. It has an interesting collection idea to it where you have to find 30 magic shards scattered around the game to get a reward. I didn't play long enough to find that reward for myself, but I did enjoy the idea and concept of it in itself. The first dungeon was a pretty basic layout, but what really caught me was the bosses, which, correct me if I'm wrong, are new bosses specifically for this game. The mini-boss was a chain chomp and 3 babies that you have to feed bombs to damage and eventually kill. And the final boss is a giant slime that you have to hit with a boomerang to knock little slimes off of him and slowly keep doing this till he gets smaller and smaller and eventually dies. It's a pretty small game, nothing special or amazing, but it is enjoyable. The next game is just an engine test, but I really wish it was more than that. Echoes of Aurelia is a Minish Cap style game and has some solid gameplay that feels really good. The game currently includes bombs and a slingshot, and from the outlines I can see in the menu, it seems like there will also be a boomerang, hammer, bag of wind, cane, gloves, ocarina, and a few more things I can't figure out when the game is fully released. What really interested me though was that the game had an actual day and night cycle that includes the sun setting and rising, and even fireflies that come out at night. That was something I'd never expected. It seemed like a really cool game with a lot of love going into it, and I really can't wait to play the full game or an actual demo of the game itself when it's finished. Now, if you are one for collectathons, Hall of the Dead is a game for you. This Zelda game adds an interesting side, having you focus more on collecting pearls than dungeon exploring or killing monsters. You can find these pearls by helping people around town and solving puzzles. Once you have enough pearls, you can eventually turn them in for prizes like more pearls, bombs, or a bow. There are dungeons, but again, it's mostly focused on puzzles and finding more pearls than actually fighting monsters. But there is a boss at the end, so don't get too against it. After beating the first boss, new areas open up to allow you to fight more bosses and dungeons and get new items, solve more puzzles, and keep collecting on your way to save Zelda. It was a really interesting twist on the formula that I have enjoyed very much. The last 2D Zelda game on this list was probably the one I spent the most time with, bringing in probably around 2 hours and 20 minutes of playtime. And that's definitely because I enjoyed it the most. Zelda the Black Crown is a game that mixed the dungeon crawling and RPG elements of Diablo with Zelda. Truthfully, the gameplay in itself is clunky, doesn't control well, and is overall bad, but just the idea of exploring Zelda dungeons and worlds while picking up new equipment, crafting items, and more was too much to put down. I really enjoyed this game for what it was, and I will for sure be going back to it at some point. Every second I spent playing this game, though, I just kept thinking, wow, this would make for an awesome Zelda game. Just imagine Zelda Diablo for the 3DS, a top-down Zelda game just like this. Talk to people, get quests, kill monsters, gaining experience, leveling up in skills, and gaining new abilities. It would just blow my mind and would be an amazing portable experience. I would highly recommend checking out Zelda Black Crown if you are a fan of Diablo-esque games. It may not control well, but man is it fun, and in the end that's what matters the most. It's one of the freshest and most interesting ideas that I have seen from the Zelda fan game community so far, and I would love to see this game to continue to grow and be updated, because if it actually moved and felt like a real Zelda game, I would call this pure perfection. What you are seeing right now is not a lie. Do not check your eyeballs. This is real. This is Zelda Ocarina of Time remade in the Unreal Engine, and it looks amazing. So far, you can only visit the beginning area and fight the first boss, but that's all I need to get hyped. Also, I just have to say the footage you are watching isn't mine because, well, this is what it would look like if I recorded it on my computer. That frame rate. My computer is so good. On the plus side, my frame rate is so bad, it caused the game to glitch and let me pick up an infinite amount of coins as long as I kept running. Don't you love that noise? The game itself, though, is actually a pretty interesting concept and also pretty funny. The dialogue is enjoyable and there are a ton of random jokes thrown around, like dabbing, having a Bulbasaur that looks like a Charmander and says Squirtle. Oh, and how about a group?
I'm Groot.
It actually fits pretty well into Ocarina of Time, weirdly enough. My favorite thing though is the house labeled Blight Town that says, "Never enter this door." Dark Souls jokes for the win. Even after such a short time, there are still so many awesome fan games still being made, and I'm so happy to see that, but there are still plenty more I haven't talked about yet, and probably more I don't even know of. I'm saving for future videos. If you have any interest in Zelda fan games, I would highly recommend looking some up for yourself or checking out Zelda Fan Game Central. Or for these games specifically, check the description for links to download them. And until then, I'll see you all in the next episode. I would just like to give a big shout out to my Patreon supporters, The Game Plank, Grizzly Gamer, Thomas Bethel, and Zero Master. If you want to support me, click the link on the screen or click one of the links to check out my other videos. It's totally up to you.